Welcome to the Rockabye Revenue Podcast with me, Abby Watson. I'm a mum of 4 and a business strategist, and I train people to become hypnobirthing teachers. In the last decade, I've built a thriving baby business that grew beyond my wildest dreams. This podcast is for you if you run a business or dream of running a business in the birth and baby industry. You want to change lives whilst making more money. I'm talking about creating sustainable income whilst being present for the people that matter most. I believe for our baby businesses to have the impact we desire, we must be rewarded. On this podcast, expect me to share actionable strategies without the jargon. I've been where you are. I've built a business while raising 4 little ones, and now I'm here to help you turn your passion into profit while creating the life you've always dreamed of. So let's get started. Hello, lovely one. How are you doing? I am here today to talk about something that I was asked last week at an event for aspiring hypnobirthing teachers. So every month in my hypnobirthing training business, I do an event called Teaching Hypnobirthing, Is It For You? And it is a great hour session for aspiring hypnobirthing teachers to have their questions answered and really find out what it is like running a hypnobirthing business, what's involved, and how to be a great hypnobirthing teacher. And last week when I was running this session, I got asked a question that is very familiar because I've been asked it a number of times and I've even asked it myself. And that is the question, is it possible to run a business without being on social media? Now, I absolutely have asked this question myself many times. And who have I asked it to? Well, my blooming self, I've been sat there, 6:30 in the morning, half a cup of cold coffee, Octonauts playing in the background, looking at Instagram and thinking, oh my gosh, I haven't posted for nearly a week. What can I blooming talk about? And then instead of ideas, all I see is everybody else in the industry talking about stuff I could have been talking about, but now I feel like I'm copying them if I do. And I have been like, oh my gosh, can I just leave social media and have a great business, but without it? Is it possible? So that's what I'm here to talk about today. So if you have ever wondered whether it is possible to run a business without social media, that is what we're going to explore today. And we're going to explore, if you do, what else could you do? And is there a middle ground? Now, ultimately, my view on this is this. To cut a long story short, yes, you can run a business without social media because social media is one marketing tool of many, It's just one tool, A website is one tool, social media is another, networking is another, going to events is another, blogging is another, podcasting is another. And social media is one of those. But why is it the first thing that so many of us think about? Well, it's probably a lot to do with the fact that we spend a lot of time on it, And as we are spending time on social media, we are seeing other businesses in many different industries also on there. And from that, we get this kind of like false picture of how much time everybody's spending on that platform. And if they're spending so much time, that must be because they get the majority of their clients from social media. Well, I have been on the inside of many people's businesses, and I tell you what they often say. they often tell me that they spend a disproportionate amount of time on social media compared to how many bookings they get from it. So they might say to me, okay, I get about, 90% of my clients from my website, but actually I'm spending 90% of my marketing time in my business on social media. Just doesn't make sense, does it? But why do we do that? Well, one, we think that's what we do in this modern age, and that's what we're seeing people do. But also, we have this real wiring to want those quick fixes, to want that instant gratification. And ultimately, that's what social media can do for us. We post something and maybe quite soon we see that it's got a like, or a comment or a view. And we're seeing that immediate feedback that it's been in front of people. And that makes us feel, in the short term, like we've done a good job. But those things don't always lead to bookings, Have you been there? Have you been there when you've posted on social media, you get 4 likes and you feel really excited, you have a look who those likes are from, one's from your Auntie Jean, one's from your neighbour down the road who always supports your business, and the other likes are from your hairdresser and your nail technician, right? And you know that none of those people are people that are going to be booking your services. And that is the illusion of social media. Now, do not get me wrong. There are absolutely people out there that do get so many bookings through social media. But there are also a lot of examples of people that don't. And be very careful what you assume, because I can think of some great examples of people in the industry who we can easily assume are bringing in the money, because they have, thousands of followers, they have viral reels, they seem to have a lot of engagement. So therefore we can assume that they are filling up with clients. They have a diary full of clients, but it doesn't always mean that, That other professional, that other person in the industry that maybe has 90 followers, that rarely posts, but does post, that their content isn't particularly groundbreaking, we might think, oh, they're probably really quiet in their business. And then we might actually see a few photos of their courses and see that they're anything but quiet. Because, like I said, social media is one of many ways to get clients. So if you are in a position where you feel really demotivated by social media and you feel like it's not good use of your time to be there, I really would recommend rethinking how you go about it. And that might not be abandoning social media. I actually think there is a great reason why we want a presence on there. But if you are currently spending hours a day on social media, kind of like using your business as an excuse for all the unnecessary scrolling, maybe it's time to reevaluate how you are using it. And like I said, I'm not necessarily saying ditch it, but are you using it in a way that's actually beneficial? Are the benefits outweighing the downsides to it? Because actually, if it is creating lots of comparison, lots of feelings of scarcity, if it is using all your time, so you haven't got time to sort out a website or to do networking, again, you probably want to reevaluate that. Now, like I said, there's so many other ways of getting clients. Okay, and I know that certainly for local hypnobirthing teachers do really well with a good website. And a hypnobirthing teacher might say, oh, but I haven't got time to build a website. I haven't got time to think about what I'm going to write on there. I haven't got time to regularly blog or add those birth stories. But you've got time to scroll and faff about on Canva, to post loads on social media. Interesting. A website can work really, really well for many people in our industry. Other things that can work really well, and it's not something that I'm a massive fan of. If you have been listening to this podcast for a while, you'll know that I am not in the networking camp. Nothing scares me more than networking. But for some people, networking, getting known by others in the industry or others that work with your potential clients can be an incredible way to get known and get referrals, get bookings. You know? Also, so many businesses in our industry grow via word of mouth. And yes, I appreciate you've got to get that first set of bookings first. But ultimately, if your business is at the stage where actually a lot of your bookings do come from word of mouth, it could be useful to think about, how can I build on what is already working? So is that about building more community with your past clients so that you're encouraging more of those referrals? Having a referral scheme, really looking after the people that are lovely enough to send new clients your way. Whatever's working, double down on it. You might even think, oh, wow, I am so disillusioned with social media. I am going to focus some of that time on creating an incredible podcast. Now, again, these things are not quick wins, but if we focus solely on quick wins like social media, well, it's a great plan to be burnt out, because if our business only thrives because we are on it 110%, we are motivated 110% of the time, well, that's not sustainable, You want to be in a position in the next year, 2 years, 3 years, where you can be like, wow, bookings come to me with ease because of the hard work I did in my first couple of years of my business. And that's not necessarily going to come from hustling all the time for those messages to turn those messages into clients. Okay. Other ways could be utilising social media, but actually upping your game by investigating paid advertising, So you're using social media, but you are working with an expert in terms of paid advertising. And instead of throwing your time into it, you are investing your cash so that you can actually use your time for doing other things. Now, there's many, many more ways of marketing your business, but I wanted to just share a few. Now, like I said earlier, I think it would be a bit of a missed opportunity if you went from being on social media to ditching it altogether. And I really wouldn't recommend that, because I do think having an account on there is different to being one of those people that is on it daily. And actually, having an account on there could serve your business really well without it being that real time-consuming thing that you might be worried about. So what do I mean by that? Well, if I was going to ditch social media in my business, this is how I do it. So currently, I am in a position where not that many of my students come solely from social media, They might come off the back of a paid social media ads campaign, or they might have found my website first, or they might have been referred. Only a small proportion randomly find me on social media. So based on that, it wouldn't be the end of the world for me to ditch social media. I'm not going to do it though. Okay. What I currently do is I absolutely regularly use social media, but the vast majority of things on social media are recycled past content, you know? I recycle content from this podcast. I use posts from last year. Very rarely am I sat down thinking, what do I need to post today? Because I have got a whole bank of incredible content that was relevant last year, and it certainly is still relevant this year. Now, if I was going to go a step further and I was really like, oh, I'm not even bothering with that, I wouldn't just delete my account. What I would do is I would keep my account going. I would put something in my bio about the best place to contact me, and that would be my email, so I didn't have to feel like I was constantly checking social media for DMs. And then I would simply post on social media every, I don't know, month. Yeah? Every month or so, I would drop something on social media to show people I still exist. I'd almost view it like, I don't know, like a behind the scenes album, you know? So if somebody has been referred to my business from one of my lovely past students, graduates, and they come and look at my social media, they get a flavour from what I'm about. You know, maybe I'd put pictures of some of my training courses, my inspiration days, some reviews, some of the ways that they can train with me. But I wouldn't be putting pressure on myself to post several times a week. Because if I wasn't using social media to reach new people, I wouldn't be needing to do that. So what I'm saying to you is, if you are considering ditching social media, or if you are new to the business world and you're like, I'm not even going to have it, I would suggest a middle ground of using social media more like a behind the scenes album. So having that Facebook page, having that Instagram page, and just reminding yourself once a month to post something. Having a good bio. So if we take Instagram, you know, as an example, thinking about what you are writing in that bio so that the person who lands there really knows that your thing is for them, and direct them to where you want them to go. So if you are focusing on your website being the main place where you attract clients, you're wanting to send them from your social media that you rarely post on to that gorgeous website that you are ploughing your energy into. Okay. Now, I know lots of business owners in different industries, including our own, that don't have a social media presence at all. And again, they get clients, you know? Let's face it, as much as we are so familiar with social media, or some of us are, it's a relatively new thing, and businesses existed before it, you know? Business existed long before the online world was even a thing. And as much as we'd almost be missing an opportunity not to use the online world, it doesn't mean that it's the only thing. So if you are having those thoughts about, can I run a business without social media? In my opinion, yeah, you can. Also, in my opinion, you'd be maybe missing an opportunity if you didn't have a little presence on there. because there will be people that will seek you out on that platform, and they don't care if you've not got 5 posts from the last week. If actually they can binge upon, the last year of content, and there's, 6 posts, but they all speak to them, ultimately, you're having the same impact. So, yeah, you can, but think about how you do it. Now, if you are someone who's thinking about becoming a hypnobirthing teacher, thinking about teaching baby massage or becoming a doula, so you want to create your own baby business, and you are thinking, but I am not that person who is usually messing about on social media. I don't even post pictures of myself usually on there. Please know there's a lot of us in the baby business world that are also like that. Like, I never use social media in the way that I do today pre-business. I would have cringed at the thought of having photos of me, having a photo shoot of myself, would have felt super cringy before I had a business, And I know so many hypnobirthing teachers that I've trained that, when they start out, they're like, oh my gosh, I'm so nervous about using social media. I'm scared of the tech. I'm scared of being visible. I don't know what I'm doing. I'd rather ignore it. And actually, they've gotten all right. They've decided not to ignore it altogether. They've decided to use it, but they've used it on their own terms, and they've got to grips with it. Because, when we start out, a lot of things are new to us, and we take a step at a time, and each step makes things more in our comfort zones, and those comfort zones expand. So I guess my final thought from this podcast today is there is no one way of building a successful business. There are several paths to having a thriving birth or baby business. And you do you. You choose what's right for you. You choose what fits with your life, what feels fun, what feels easy, because you're going to stick to that, If it feels fun, if it feels easy, if it feels something that you can continue with, you will continue with it. And ultimately, whatever business we go into, whether we, are training to be, a personal trainer or a dog trainer or a hypnobirthing teacher, we have to let people know our services exist, If they don't know our services exist, they're not going to book us because we're practically invisible to them. And there's many ways to help people know we are here and what we offer. And social media is just one of them. And there's many ways of using it. From, being that business owner that is super consistently posting, that is building relationships via Instagram stories, that is connecting with people on LinkedIn or using Threads or being on TikTok. That's one way, but it's not the only way. So I hope this was super useful, and I hope it allows you to really reflect on what is right for you going forward. It doesn't have to be one or the other. It can definitely be in between. Have a lovely day and keep changing lives. Bye. Thank you for listening to Rockabye Revenue. I hope this episode has left you with some fresh ideas and bundles of motivation. If you enjoyed this episode, do make sure you click subscribe so you never miss an installment. And if you found this episode useful, I'd love you forever if you leave a 5-star review, helping this podcast reach the ears of more of the helpers in this world. And remember, keep changing lives. See you next time.